Welcome to the history of theatre lights. Theatrical lighting has a long and rich history spread out over many years. Today, we'll be taking a look at its history and many inventions and the influential people that made them possible. We'll be starting with the ancient Greek theatre and working our way to modern theatrical lighting. Stage lights are just one of the components of the stage production, which supports the overall experience of performance in the theatre. Stage lighting provides a dramatic effect which highlights scenes and story. Today's lighting has become an art form due to the advancements and technology. However, it did not start that way. During the time of ancient Greece, plays were performed in open-air theatres. The theatre was circular and formed with a flat orchestra pit located in the hallow between two hillsides. The plays were usually staged during the daytime in order to take advantage of the natural light from the sun. Further, the time of the day for staging the play would coincide with the kind of the scene they envisioned for the play. The location of the stage should also be such that it could obtain the best effect of the natural light from the sun. They would represent their plays in different times a day to take advantage of the different types of natural lighting. This type of planning was in essence early lighting design. The theatre of Dionysus is one such theatre that uses a style of lighting. They also use mirrors and other background materials that could reflect natural light in order to change the lighting in the play. Greeks and Romans used awnings of red, yellow, and blue were stretched and fluttering in the breeze bathed the players in softly tinted rays of this transmitted sunlight. The need of artificial stage lighting came during the period of 12th century to 14th century AD, when for the first time in history, performances were given after the sun had set. Cressets or crudely woven baskets of iron mounted on poles were filled with blazing pine knots and pitch, and by their fitful flickering glare, the audience viewed the tableaus and religious spectacles being staged. In the 15th century came the candle to light the stages of the first enclosed theatres. Age-worn parchments disclosed the fact that in 1452 AD, thousands of candles filled chandeliers illuminated the stage. In addition, candles were placed in the streets and upon house steps and towers of the stage settings, marking the first endeavor at illumination from the wings, which has now been perfected in our modern stage side lighting. In 1545, Sebastiano introduced the use of color lights, liquids, and bottles: wine, red, saffron, yellow, ammonium chloride in a copper vessel blue. The result being intensified by putting bright basins for reflectors behind the candles. This, the time stage lighting gained importance in the productions of stage plays. Qualities of light such as distribution, intensity, and color has contributed to the scene, which made them more dramatic and engaging. Happy scenes were illuminated, while tragic scenes were much darker through the civil use of candles. To distribute the lights evenly across the stage, there were stand hands that would walk around and adjust the lighting of the candles. In the 16th century, the theatres of England got candlelight. Barely 200 years later, in 1780s, modern oil lamps designed by Swiss chemist Aimé Argand replaced candles in the same light fixtures, providing greater illumination. The first attempt to use footlights for the stage illumination is credited to Niccolo Sabatini, an Italian producer working in the early part of the 17th century. About 1620, he designed a parapet to be erected at the front of the stage with a row of oil lamps placed behind it. The rudimentary and meager arrangement was the first step in the development of footlights in the modern theatre. As the theatre and its scenery developed in the 18th century, notable advancement was made in the stage lighting effects. Perhaps the greatest scenic artist of this age was Giovanni Battista Piranesi of Venice, a lover of bold light and shade. He found that darkening the front of the stage and using a lightened background produced a marked illusion of reality upon his audience. Candles within the lanterns were his only means for creating this impression. The use of oil lamps were short-lived as lighting technology rapidly increased. Less than 40 years later, gas lighting began to fill streets, homes, and even theaters. The Chestnut Street Theatre in Philadelphia saw the first gas stage lighting system in 1816, while a year later, Druryland and Covent Garden, two London theatres, followed the suit. The kerosene lamp was invented in 1783 in France. Just before close of the century, managers of many playhouses throughout the continent and United States of America installed this new method of lighting. It was an improvement over candlelight, but still left much to be desired. To vary the lighting effect, small screens were pushed out or pulled away from the lamps by stagehand using the long poles. It was discovered in 1781 that gas could be produced in sufficient quantities for illumination. In 1803, Frederick Albert Windsor, realizing the great advantages of open flame gas burners over candles or lamps, successfully equipped the stage of Lyceum Theatre in London with this new type of illumination. A few years later, the Chestnut Stage Opera House in Philadelphia adopted this better method of lighting, manufacturing the gas with the crude machinery in the basement of the theatre. In the limelight, it is interesting to trace the origin of phrase "in the limelight," which has come to mean the center of attraction. The limelight was nothing more than a spotlight invented by Henry Drummond in 1816, but not used to any great extent until about 1860. Drummond discovered that by heating a piece of lime to incandescence, brilliant white light is resulted. And this invention has been improved by lighting engineers until we have the present electrical spot, without which no theatrical performance is complete. Electricity makes its entrance. Electricity, so vital in modern theatrical illumination, was used on the stage for the first time in 1846 at the Paris Opera. At that time, the rays of electrical arc were thrown upon the scenery at the rear of the stage to represent the rising sun. Thus, the crude arc light, invented by the famous Sir Humphrey Davy in 1808, which has been constantly improved by lighting engineers since that time, was the forerunner of the present method of stage illumination. The first electric spotlight. During the production of opera Moses at the Paris Opera House in 1860, theatre goers witnessed a new and startling theatrical illusion. In one of the scenes against a dark background, Moses appeared arrayed in robes of such dazzling white that the entire audience was amazed. They were seeing the effects of the first electrical operated spotlight, and the result was so striking that it won instant uproar throughout the theatrical world. Electric candles make their debut. An electric candle embodying the principles of arc light but without the need of hand adjustment while in operation was invented by Paul Yablokov in 1878. This candle, enthusiastically received by the theatre world, soon became obsolete with the introduction of Edison's incandescent lamp. In 1878, the Bellecour Theatre at Lyon, France, installed 52 of these electric candles. Edison's lamp was a great success. The incandescent electric lamp, developed by Edison in 1879, revolutionized the theatre lighting the world over. In 1882, an electrical exposition was held in Munich, Germany. Here, a small temporary theatre was erected and completely lighted by incandescent bulb so that theatrical managers might see the advantages of using electricity in this new form. Its success was so marked that the Bijou Theatre in Boston and Savoy Theatre in London installed electricity the same year. A modern spotlight. The importance of electric spotlight in stage productions was well realized by the famous Ernest Stern in his settings for The Miracle in 1911. From the rear of theatre, powerful rays were centered upon a single actor dwarfed by a huge doorway behind which created an awe-inspiring effect upon the audience. Futurism stimulates stage lighting. Futuristic as well as cubistic art caused a great sensation in the world over about 1919. Their advent stimulated new ideas in electric stage lighting. Scenic artists needed something to accentuate their grotesque creation and found that with the help of electricity, they could gain the desired effect. Both these radical movements in art have been superseded by present-day modern art. The above illustration is a futuristic scene taken from a German play, Die Viper. Diffused theatre lighting. Illumination without bright, dazzling lights or extreme contrast tend to rest the eyes and promote relaxation. For this reason, diffuse lighting or lighting that spreads evenly without glare has become the accepted model for modern theatre. One of the most pleasing forms of diffuse lighting is the decorated glass panel ordinarily used beneath the balcony. Through this panel, colored lights in varied tones bathe the audience in soft glow, not unlike the effect of sunlight transmitted through the colored awnings used by Greeks and Romans more than 1,000 years ago. Foyer lighting. Only in recent years have theatre managers realized the intrinsic value of their foyer for attracting and impressing the public. Illustrated above is a typical modern foyer appointed in the style of Italian Renaissance, and the illumination by Latin-type electric torches gives a final touch of realism. The exterior lighting of the theatre. Theatrical men have come to realize the great importance of having the exteriors of their playhouses artistically illuminated. Harsh, garish brilliance has given way to softly modulated and blended lights, which harmonize with the beauty of the structure and brings out its architectural grace. Illuminating engineers are responsible for an increasing number of such modern lighting installations. A typical example of such installation is the Ziegfeld Theatre in New York City, illustrated below. Let us talk about the effective stage lighting. Stage lighting for the modern musical requires the skill of expert illuminating engineers. The success of beautiful scene that holds an audience spellbound for few moments is largely attributed to perfect harmony in lighting, which has taken perhaps many months of study to design. The scene illustrated above, entitled Cleopatra's Barge, is from the Casino de Paris Revue, A Night in Paris. Theatrical lighting, 20th century to present day. With the development of incandescent lamps late in the 19th century, small, safe, portable lighting fixture that could be easily placed anywhere around the stage and then controlled by remote electrical dimmer system came into use. The use of incandescent lamps replaced cumbersome and odorous gas lighting, which theatre used for many years. From this point on, the evolution of lighting very quickly. In 1986, at the USIT conference, they came up with one system that pulled together with all the different companies' controllers, consoles, dimmer racks and lighting system. This is called DMX. DMX cable, as you can see in this image of the screen lights, is used to get the effects on the back wall. Lighting has now become an art form where plot, costume, scenery and all of their facets of productions are integrated. It satisfies the three main concerns such as mood, focus and visibility, as it becomes an effective tool that directors utilize today.